we don't teach any trig. We just barely start algebra, but then we're very strong on like geometry, the basic math functions. We have a lot of story problems, some small checkbook balancing, small business accounting, as we try to teach the children this is how this works in the real world. And our system does work. You won't find a lot of rocket scientists coming out of these schools, but not only you find them as unproductive people. Some years ago, the city manager of Austin, Texas was an ex-Amish boy, and his brother was leading heart surgeon at the University of Houston. I personally know at least one of each of a doctor, attorney, college professor, and engineer. They came out of these schools, later chose to leave the Amish, get their GEDs, and go on through college and were well able to do so. More importantly to me, 85% of these kids are going to stay Amish, and they will be very productive members of the community. This county has more entrepreneurs per capita than any other in the state of Ohio. And the majority of those are kids or people that came out of these schools. And so there are close to 300 of these schools in the area. And so if you go to toward the middle of the community, which is actually where we are right now, a lot of times you can pretty much see from one school to the next. And that's why we prefer the small neighborhood schools where the children are not in a foreign atmosphere. When they are at school, they know the rest of the kids as who they are used to be with. The schools that we pay, the Amish community pays for our own schools, and plus the parents pay tuition. And then we also pay the real estate tax, which goes to the public schools. We do not accept any government money in our schools because if the government pays for something, they also want to control it. And it is understandable there needs to be accountability there. And so we're just thankful we're allowed to have our own schools. So does anyone have any questions on the education?
You tell me about your teachers and how are they trained? What's their qualifications?
They're hired as teachers. They usually come out of these schools, and each school is operated by 3 sets of parents who are the school board. And every year, whoever's been on the longest comes off, somebody else is elected on. No campaign to see us do their civic duty to serve. They choose who they want to hire as school teachers. There are no qualifications that need to be based. Obviously, you try to have somebody you think would make a good teacher, but it's not always easy to tell. Because it's not always the smartest kids that are the best teachers. Actually, usually it's not, because they never learned how to apply themselves. But obviously, they don't want the bottom of the class either. And the nice thing is, if a teacher does not work out, it's not a big deal. You just tell her, usually it's a her, not always, but about 80% of the teachers are girls from the age of coming out of this about 16 until they get married. And then some older single women also. And you just kind of tell them, look, this is not working, we're not going to rehire next year. And everybody parts hopefully good terms. We do have some short summer school for the teachers, especially the beginners, but it's not required. So most of them got their training hands-on. And a lot of times what happens, the grades will be mixed together here. And so there'll be a table up here, they'll come up here to have their class. And so the 4th grader might listen into the 8th grade have history, or the 8th grade might go have 1st graders, and that way one trying to become a teacher. And I'll just tell you right now, the teachers are not paid enough. They're paid better than they used to be, but just like anywhere else, if life would be fair, the baseball players would be complaining about how much money the teachers make. And it just doesn't work out to happen. Any other questions?
So how long do they go to school? Like, is it like public school or?
As far as per day?
Like, would that and then how? Like,
Okay, the life of the day is very similar to public schools. And I know that question comes up every day. I need to go home and ask again because it's been several years since we had school kids. I can't remember, but it's very close. The school year is not quite as long. We have 120 days or 160 days instead of 180. And we also let out early in the spring because we don't have spring break and winter break and you know, all the different breaks that they come up with. We'll take a day off for Christmas. If it's Christmas on Thursday, usually Thursday, Friday will be off, or, you know, but times the day after Thanksgiving, they're school. Not always. But then, if there's a wedding in the area, our weddings are during the week. If there's a wedding in the community, hey, we can close school for the wedding. Because probably everybody's invited. Tomorrow there's a wedding in our neighborhood. Well, our school is closed because, you know, everybody's invited. Half of the school are siblings, well, not quite half, but a few are siblings were the ones. If I tell you that the girl getting married, they had 9 daughters, and then 2 sons, and another daughter, and then another son. No, 2 more sons. So you'll see why I say half of our siblings. Any other questions? 2 things people are sometimes surprised we do not have in our schools is we're small homework. I love it when I have kids on the tour, I tell them that. Yeah. Sometimes somebody will say, they'll have some homework. But usually it's felt that homework or schoolwork needs to stay in the school. And in the evening, the kids should be free to be kids. They might have chores or some other work, but otherwise, you know, be free to be kids. The other thing we don't have is religious instruction. We have usually a Bible story. We'll have morning prayer or noon prayer, both. The teacher is expected to be good, show good moral, teach good morals. But religious instruction per se, we feel belongs in the church and the home, not in the school. So any other questions? Yes?
Yes, please, let me know, please. I did the prayer.
Okay.
But we believe Jesus. But we don't say, in Jesus' name, amen.
Okay, most of that just, as you notice, that one rhymes. So that just little rhymes. So most of the prayers would say Jesus' name, amen. But this one is just a little noon prayer rhyme that they'll say a lot of times.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Yes?
For the school here, would this just be for Amish, or would this include the Mennonite children?
This will be just Amish. Mennonites, the more liberal Mennonites go to public schools, and Homerville, all Mennonites went to public school. But today, most of the more conservative Mennonites have their own schools. And it's operated on similar ways, but not completely. So, and this school is, by the way, not used at all. I mean, it would be a little hard to have school and bring groups in here all the time. It'd be very intrusive. But the artwork on the wall was done by Amish school kids. They were done where my daughter taught school. And so it's, also most of these schools have 2 teachers. One with a little more experience than the other usually. They'll divide up by grades, but not necessarily the 1st, the 4th, the 5th, or 8th. When my daughter taught, she was a beginner. And she taught with a more experienced teacher, which is where you get a lot of good learning. And she taught 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 6th. And the more experienced teacher taught 1st, 5th, 7th, and 8th, which they feel is the harder grades. So, okay, so I want to show you one more thing. I'm not trying to close the door in your face, but I need this, of course, to give it, listen very closely. Hear the bell. The bell is not to dismiss. They're all sitting here in one room. They don't need a bell to dismiss. The bell is to call them to school. But we dismiss in a different way, in an interesting way too. I told you most of these schools have basements, and so instead of an open porch here, there'll be an enclosed entry. And that's where the hats and the coats will hang. And then there'll be a few steps up to the main part, and a few steps down to the basement. And so when it's time to dismiss, the teacher will say, okay, put your books away. And everybody puts their books away and stand beside the desk. And then the teacher will say, row 3 is dismissed, and maybe row 5, taking turns. That way the 1st grader does not get run over by an 8th grader going for their clothes. But they're human. They're kids. So once they hit the playground, they're not walking like robots. Okay, so going out here, and we're heading for the upper part of the barn. So if anybody wants to go up there to the top of the barn, you can. Actually, if you would meet me at beside the barn, going up that drive, beside the barn would be a good place to meet.
I'm waiting on the line.
it still would have been in the middle of the schoolhouse. But a stove to heat the school.
Cho nên bị móc chỗ nào móc rồi tôi vô cái ngồi tôi bị ho. Tôi thấy ra ngoài.
Thôi tôi ngồi đây chơi rồi. Ngồi đây chơi.
Tại vô lớp học, không có trốn học.
Trốn học.
Chú không được trốn học. Cô lên mét thầy giáo xuống. Cô Wendy lên mét. Cô Wendy mét.
Có cái wheelchair thì mình đẩy được.
This barn was raised in '02 and it's traditional barn raising, but it's not a very traditional barn. First of all, the downstairs is much cleaner than most barns are. Usually we have animals on the downstairs.
Ủa sao chạy
And here we have the downstairs is used for storage. Also, if you look, those stones are stuck on there. Long ago, here's what you'd use. There's a lot of sandstone in the area. And so a lot of the barns you see are 100, 170 years old, and they have the sandstone foundations. Today we use cement block. Something else you might notice if you look between the boards here, and the cracks between the boards, you might notice this is the only barn that I know of in the area that is insulated. So if you want to come up here, we'll move inside the barn. Like I said, here in the barn, I will be talking about 4 different things. I will talk about one item, then I'll take questions about that before moving on. So just bear with me where I'm going. So first we're going to move over here. Don't worry about the seats. Probably everybody will have to stand so everybody can see the pictures. Because the first thing I'm going to talk about is Amish barn racings. So make sure you can see these pictures. So just stand up here where you can see the pictures. Okay, a lot of people have a misconception about Amish barn raising. They think we arrive in the morning, it's pasture land, by evening we're milking cows. It doesn't quite work like that. First of all, the site is prepared and the block are laid previously. I would hate to lay block and start building on it immediately. And so also all these timbers are notched and cut. And so when you get there in the morning, these are all lying on the floor here, just like a kit ready to be put together. So the first thing you do, you assemble this wall. And you drill just the frame, you drill the holes, you pound these pegs through the holes. The entire frame of the barn is built without using any nails. There's nothing religious about it, it's just a good solid Swiss way of building barns, and we're Swiss. Then as soon as the first frame is assembled, you push it in place, see these poles going up, then the ropes to keep it from going over center. As soon as one wall is in place, you start on the next one, soon the roof of the side. This particular barn has metal, in the picture has metal siding, And this picture right here is probably taken about lunchtime.
Wow.
The majority of the work is down in the forenoon.
Tham là xong.
Now, there's one guy who gets paid for his day. He is the boss, is what he's called. And he's a professional timber framer. These barns we call timber framed. And he's a professional timber framer. And what he will do, if you would please keep the sound down a little bit. If you would please keep the sound down a little bit so that people can hear when I'm talking. It's a little distracting. What he does, he won't say you and you and you go do that. He'll say, hey, I need 5 guys over here to do so and so. So the 5 guys that can go do it. So you end up with the professional carpenters up here, and you end up with people like me down here, because I'm not a carpenter. And at one time that bothered me. It doesn't anymore, because I realized if I carry a 2x4 from here to there, that's a 2x4 nobody else has to carry. And so we need the pros up here, but we also need the support people down here. Somebody has to carry the boards. Somebody has to hand up the boards and cut the boards, everything else. So the barn raising is like the community. Everybody is needed. Nobody is irreplaceable. Now, we don't have a lot of barn raisings, because only 10 to 15% of Amish are farmers. If you are a farmer and you have a barn, you don't need another one. And so the only time there's a barn raising pretty much is if there's a fire. And thankfully, that's very rare. And but we have other work projects we work together. The two things that destroy a barn are, first of all, fire, and secondly, neglect. That's a big, strong beam up there, and it's heavy. Believe me, it is heavy. That's solid oak. But if that roof starts leaking and it's not repaired, and every time it rains, it drips on there, that big beam will rot through. And when that happens, it starts sagging as the beginning and the end of the barn. If you look at this beam right above your heads here, see those notches on the side of that beam? That beam came out of an old barn. It was chopped out by hand. Yeah, we don't do that anymore. We do sawmills, thankfully. Do you have any questions on the barn raisings?
So is it generally just their community, their district?
It depends. Well, no, not just districts. All over people come.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people come from all over to help. You have about 300 men there, not nearly that many. Okay, so let's just. Okay, the top is hay, grain, straw, and then the bottom is the animals. Okay, let's move on around here. Excuse me. Just ignore this thing in the middle. We'll get to that later. But for right now, just come on out around here, over here. I'm just kidding. I like how we push on that later. Okay. There are quite a few different groups of Amish in the area. And they all have variations on the buggies, plus every buggy is custom made. Some of the more conservative groups do not have battery lights, mirrors, or glass. And then other groups might have rubber on the wheels and instead of roll-up curtain, the door that slides in. And like I said, every buggy is custom made, so every buggy is different. But every buggy in this area is shaped like this, and they are all black. If you go to Pennsylvania, you'll see them yellow, gray, white, and even a burnt orange. Now this buggy, you have to come pretty close, everybody, to see this. This buggy is in northern Indiana.
Yeah.
Who can tell me what is on that buggy that none of the other buggies here have, but your car does?
License tag.
A license plate, you're right. A license plate. And that's a county by county thing in northern Indiana. It's not a state thing. I'm going to wheel this up for a little bit. People come back here too. There's nobody in front of the buggy, is there? I don't want to run over somebody. This buggy, like I said, they're all custom made. This one, if you notice here, has seats in the back for little children. You can move on around here. Everybody can see. Seats for little children. Now, if you had kids in here, there's a slot here. You put a board in there to keep them from falling out. Probably have the curtain down. Also, this buggy is about 40 to 50 years old. But the styles don't really change. The running gear has changed. There are some buggies now that have four-wheel suspension, which is, I don't believe it. But this buggy has the lights on here are old automotive lights. And the battery is an automotive battery, a big, heavy automotive battery under the front seat. And that's a pain, because you don't have an alternator on here, and you can't hook one up to the wheels move too slowly, it doesn't work. It's been tried, everything's been tried. But, so all of a sudden it's dark and you're 15 miles from home and ding, your lights start dying out on you. Now you've got a problem. Today we have it a lot nicer. We have the LED lights, and maybe folks are familiar with the Makita or the DeWalt cordless tools. If I want to go away, all I do is take one of my Makita batteries, and I've got a bunch of them, plug in the buggy, and I'm all set to go. Those Makita lights have been very much of a lifesaver for the Amish. The Amish are very innovative. I have seen those lights operating sewing machines, blenders, washing machines, ice cream makers, and the lamps in our home all operate on those Makita batteries. And what it does, it allows you to have small appliances without connecting to the grid. There's something symbolic in there. When an Amish community connects to the grid, they will lose their Amish identity very fast. I'm not sure which costs which. But if you look there, that's the open buggy, or as I've been called, the sports car of the Amish. And the only difference is the sports car usually costs twice as much as a regular car. That one only costs about half as much as this one. And that's just a nice lightweight run around. If you have an open buggy, you also have a top buggy. And that's just nice lightweight run around for a nice day like today. Traditionally, when a boy is 20, 21, 22, 20, usually around 20 years old, he gets a buggy, horse, and harness from home. The girls get a bedroom set, which is a bed, a nightstand, a dresser, and a bureau. Or used to be. That changes occasionally. All of a sudden, armoires were really in the thing, and that changed, but pretty much. And the bride's parents have to pay for the wedding. And my daughter's getting married next April, so I better work some overtime.
So how much you pay? You have average for the
Wedding? Our daughter that got married about, her first daughter's 6, so she'd be married about 7 years ago. Their wedding cost about $8,000. And so I'm guessing that price went up. Yes. So I'm guessing around 11 to 12.
Yeah.
And so yes. We do feed about 400 to 500 people at the wedding. And 2 meals for a lot of them. And so it's a big deal. The food is the most important. Interesting little thing. Well, we want to have a wedding, so that's our home. We don't have a whole bunch of stoves and everything else. And so we hire a wedding trailer. Rent a wedding trailer for a week. It's a big trailer, and has maybe about 3 stoves on it, a large fridge, a walk-in fridge and freezer, and dishes and silverware and pots and pans, whatever you need to make a wedding.
We cook ourselves or catering?
And we rarely cater. We make it ourselves. We have a whole bunch. So if our daughter marries, my siblings and my wife's siblings will be cooks, and a lot of the ladies in the church will be cooks, and then we'll have some girls will be servers, and it's a big deal. We have a wedding, our neighbor's getting married tomorrow. And so it's always a big deal to go to a wedding. Actually, I mentioned that down the barn. And
It's more of a community.
yes, and community and relatives. So we have people coming for tomorrow from Montana, Michigan, Kentucky, Indiana, maybe other places I don't even know of. Yeah.
How much is
The buggy, these buggies, now this is an old one, but if you bought a buggy like this today, with the way they are today, probably about $8,000.
They build them here.
And that's about half, about $4,000.
They build them here in the community.
Yes, there are quite a few different buggy shops there. Usually, you won't see a sign out. Sometimes you're usually not because everybody knows where the local buggy shop is.
So how much the horse cost?
The horse, now there's a big difference. You can pay $2,500 for the horse, or you can pay $25,000, and anywhere in between. Most don't pay $25,000, but some do bring that much money. And the thing of it is, the $25,000 horse will not get you there much faster than the $2,500 horse, but he'll look a lot neater getting there. And another thing, if you see a whole bunch of lights on the buggy, guess whose buggy it is? Different colored lights on it.
You need 2 horses.
It's a young boy's buggy. Occasionally, our son drove to a church last Sunday, that our son and his family, the church was maybe about 20 miles from us, and they hitched 2 buggies, or 2 horses in a buggy, but usually only one. If you have 2, you have to change. See, this shaft, one horse fits in there. Then you have to put a pole in, so 2 horses work. Any other questions? Yes.
So what kind of range can you expect out of a decent horse? You know, are you?
Okay.
I have no idea how far you can travel.
Okay, with a good solid horse, you can go 30, the furthest we've ever went is 35 miles and then went back home in the evening.
Really?
And that was on the buggy trail, which is fairly level. I'd hate to do that on a lot of these hills.
Right.
But that is not the max, but close to the max.
Okay.
And you have to have a good solid horse.
Yeah.
A lot of the younger horses won't be able to go that far.
That's farther than I thought.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, so without looking too closely, does anybody have an idea what that thing is? I bet you know already.
Was that wagon,
The,
wedding wagon?
no, not that trailer is a huge one they bring with the truck. Remember we have church in our homes. And if you have church on Sunday, the week before church, the bench wagon will show up. That's what we call this, the bench wagon. It'll be completely full of these benches. You pull them out, you flip them over, and presto, you're ready for church. Here, and of course we'll have that at the wedding tomorrow too. Except we'll probably use about 3 or 4 of these for the wedding. Here are several outbuildings that are set up for church services. And there's a bench, and you want to sit on there, there are a couple. If you want to sit on there, they help you to sit there for a 3-hour church service a day. Now that's not quite accurate. Our church services last 3 hours, but it's not just sitting. There are 2 kneeling prayers. It's usually wood with metal laid over it to keep it weatherproof. There are usually 2 during the church service. There are 2 kneeling prayers, and then halfway through, everybody stands while a chapter of the New Testament is read. And it's not as bad as you think. If you're used to it, it's not that uncomfortable. We have chairs for older people with medical problems, but you can fall asleep on there. I can tell you that from experience. You can do it. Then these will be on the bench wagon. Remember, we eat at church. So after church services, we push 2 benches together, put those underneath, and press on the tables. Pull up another bench with a chair. For the seating. The gospel is the oldest hymnal and continuous used anywhere in the world. It is 4 verses of 7 lines per verse, and it takes 20 minutes to sing it. That means we sing slow. It's a very slow, prayer-like, meditative singing. And no music at all, and no musical accompaniments. In this song, the first verse praises God. The second verse prays for the minister. The third verse prays for the listeners. And the fourth verse praises God. So it's a perfect song to be sung in the morning before church. So a lot of people are surprised to hear we only have church every other Sunday.
It's not English.
It's German.
Oh.
Our services are all in German. Yeah. A lot of people are surprised we only have church every other Sunday. There's a reason for that. They feel it's important. We don't just go to church for an hour in the morning. We usually, our beliefs are based on our life, it's based on faith, family, and community. And so we try to build those 3. So we get there in the morning about 8 o'clock, and we stand around visiting. Men in the barn, the women in the house, depends where the church is, depends on what works. And we feel that builds up that community. And then close to 8:30, we file in. The men and the women sit separately. The men the women go by age. The men go ministry first, then by age. Except if you have visitors, you always send them ahead of where they belong. And at 8:30, service start. And they'll last for 3 hours. And then we eat. The meal is a simple meal. It's homemade bread with a peanut butter spread. If you've eaten at any of the local restaurants, you've seen that peanut butter spread, except my wife makes better than theirs, but that's okay. Then you take thin slices of deli meat and cheese and put on top of it. And everybody makes their own sandwich, however they want it. You eat that with pickles and red beets, plenty of coffee, and then eat either a piece of pie or a cookie for dessert. At the end of that, we sit around visiting till about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And then we head back home. Now, the morning services are the same. It doesn't matter if you're in Delaware or Idaho, or anywhere in between. Any of the 38 states with Amish, the morning services are the same. Some might start a little later, maybe 9:15 or 9 o'clock, but it's still the same. The evening varies, but almost all Amish, the majority of the Amish churches have some kind of singing in the evening for the young people. I'll tell you what we do in our area, and most have something similar. At 6 o'clock, there's a meal, and the youth return. The youth are those that are 16 and over and not yet married, are single, 16 and over. They will return, and we have 24 church families in our district, and about one third to one half of those will return. The meal will be a simple meal, usually salad, casserole, and dessert. Following the meal, we'll sing for another hour. Now there we will sing faster tunes. And we'll sing half hour in German and half hour in English. Following that, we will do a prayer, and then we sit around visiting until we go, time to go home. During that time, if a boy is dating a girl, he'll take her to her home and then stay there for a couple hours before continuing on home. So for us, church is not just an hour, it's almost an all-day day. So on the in-between Sunday, what do we do then? Not just sleep. Well, sometimes we do a bit, but mostly what we do one or three things. There, we might visit another church district. There are about 340 church districts in this area. Each one was between 20 and 40 families. And so like last Sunday was our off Sunday, but my wife's twin sister had church at their place. So we went there. The other thing we might do is we might visit somebody sick. Or we might just have family time at home. And it goes back to faith, family, and community. We feel that in between Sunday, that no church Sunday is a very important part of building that up. Going to my sister's place at church, build up family. It also builds up community because, it's their church people. And so all of that works together. Any questions on the churches?
You don't eat meat or
Pardon?
fish for your lunch or dinner?
We usually eat deli meat. Deli meat.
No fish?
We eat fish, but not at the church meal. It would not be as practical. Deli meat is just a practical food.
Sandwiches.
Right, sandwiches. Pardon?
That's your life?
No. We feel Jesus said we are to be a light unto the world. And that's what we try to do. We also feel he said in Matthew 25, he said we are to feed the hungry, give water to the thirsty, and that's what we try to do. And if somebody is, wants to be part of it, they're welcome to be. But we don't feel that we should be going out and trying to force people to do this.
Yeah, that's what he said on Matthew 28.
He did, but who was he talking to?
Yeah.
The disciples. And also, he told them to keep all the things. And the disciples did not go each one to all the parts of the world. They went out, they started churches. And that's how the word spreads, through churches. Even Paul, when he went on his missionary journeys, he didn't just bounce from one, he started a church at every place. And he stayed longer than most people realize. And he ordained leaders there and moved on. He didn't have everybody just scatter out and preaching. And so we feel that church is because the church is Christ's bride. Any other? Okay. Yes.
You mentioned your services in German. Do you speak German at home?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Also, you might hear us speaking German in here. Because for a lot of Amish, it's just a little easier. I bet you guys are Vietnamese. So you probably, the Vietnam language probably comes easier to you than the English? Yeah.
We have the youngest.
Yeah, but that language is probably easier for you than the English, right?
For us?
Yeah. So the German is for us, although, English is easy, but, okay, we're going to go really quick with the wagon because we didn't get back with the inside tour. You've all seen, we're not sure how old this wagon is, but it made its first trip to Holmes County in 1830. It was in bad shape. They renovated it. They didn't try to hide the new. I don't think the carpeting is original. But you all see in the pictures of the family heading west. Mom and Dad sitting up front, kids waving out of the rear. Well, I'm sorry, but if you look at front here, there's not even a seat up there. I mean, look at the size of this wagon. Think about putting all your belongings in here. and enough food to last your family for the next 3 to 4 months. Some people say, well, we would have loved all the land. No, you wouldn't have. You might have eaten some berries, but you're not going to eat berries for 3 or 4 months. So they had to take food along. So the family walked. And the horse had enough weight to pull, and they only averaged about 10 miles a day. So that wasn't a bad walk. Somebody asked me, how about old people? I said, old people didn't go to the wilderness. 30 years ago, that might have intrigued me, but no thanks. I'll let somebody else go. Here's the grease can. It's a hollowed out log. With, the lid has a hole at the top, and what they would use is pine oil, lard, tallow, whatever they had. Here is the brake. If you would go over the side of the wagon, if you go over here to the side of the wagon, you can see what I'm doing there. See the brake working? You might have to stand back. You might have to stand back a little bit so everybody can see that brake working. If everybody would just stand back a little bit and let everybody else move around there, then you can see the brake working.
Yeah, moving.
Here, so you had to keep the wagon greased, so you had to use that jack up the axle, take the wheel off, and grease the inside ever so often. And the bed of the wagon is not level. There's a reason for that. If it would be level, it's not floating rivers. This baby did not float. If it be level, if you go up the mountain, everything falls out the rear. Go down the mountain, everything falls out the front. This way, everything leads from the center. Center of gravity is the middle, keeps things from falling out. These wagons were made in the Conestoga Valley in Pennsylvania, the hence Conestoga wagons. They cost $500 each, and that was a lot of money 200 years ago, but they lasted generations. And it took 4 men 2 months to make a wagon. But these wagons are an incredible feat of engineering. If you look, see it as I turn and wheel it, see that turning mechanism there. It's just really incredible feat of engineering. I always end up with it not where I wanted. Some of these wagons actually had seats up front, and there was a lot of produce raised and a lot of tobacco raised. Not just Amish and Mennonites used these, everybody used them. There was a lot of tobacco raised in Pennsylvania, and they would take that and the produce to market with these wagons, with the driver sitting up front. The driver was driving a team of horses, so they called him a teamster. And that's why semi-truck drivers are called teamsters. Now, I overheard one of you speak in the restroom, so I'll elaborate on that a little bit. They would take tobacco to the market, and the driver, the teamster, wanted to smoke. He would reach back, tear off a leaf of tobacco, roll it up really tightly, and light it up. And that's why the nickname for cigars are stogies, comes from the Conestoga. Now, I like to use this map to show. Now, this map was created for something else. I really don't know much about the treaties. The only thing I know about the treaties is I know who got the short end of the stick. And it was not the people writing the treaties. I like to use it to show Amish immigration. The first main group of Amish arrived in Philadelphia in 1737. They moved up to Berks County, Pennsylvania, and that's where the first Amish community was in America. During the time of the American Revolution, the 1770s, they were pressured here by the American patriots, and some of them moved down to Lancaster. But our people crossed the mountains to Somerset, Pennsylvania. They lived in Somerset for a generation, and it started getting crowded there. I mean, some of these guys had neighbors within 2 miles from them, and they just couldn't make it anymore. And so some of them decided, we're going to go out west. And they took an exploration down the Ohio River, up the Mississippi, up the Missouri, and scouted out Iowa. Came in, scouted out Illinois, and they decided, you know what, we'll just walk home. They walked across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. I'm so glad they did, because as they walked through here, they came down here to the Walnut Creek Valley, and they see these huge walnut trees. And evidently, where walnut trees grows is good farmland. And they said, this is where we want to go. And I'm so thankful, because I'm a hill boy, and I love my hills. I couldn't make it out there on the flatlands. But they could just shoot straight across here, because here you've got rivers you can't ford, you've got mountainous terrain. So they would go up to Fort Pitt, which is today's Pittsburgh, of course. Then they would be ferried across the river, follow the high river up to here, and then drive on to here. And that they could do crossing these rivers and the area there. It took them several weeks to make that trip. I have been along that we start early in the morning to visit friends in eastern Pennsylvania, and we start early in the morning, we eat breakfast in Somerset. So when they took them several weeks to drive, we drive before breakfast. Now I want to get one thing understood. We hire a driver to take us. I told that story one day, and a lady's jaw almost hit the floor. She asked, "You drive to Pennsylvania one morning with a horse and buggy?" My son said, "Sure." Told her we use 2 horses. So there are a lot of people that make a living in this area doing what we call is hauling Amish, doing taxi work among the Amish. So if any of you want to make an easy living, just move in the area, buy a 15-passenger van. You'll be so busy you don't know what to do. The only thing it takes is a lot of patience. If you take women shopping, it takes a lot of patience. But if you take men to horse sales, it takes even more. So, any questions on anything? Yes?
The wagon, which is the front end?
Pardon?
Which is the front end?
This end is the front.
Okay.
See where it steers the
Yeah,
small
steer,
wheels?
I saw the-
And the reason for the small wheels is because if those wheels would be as large as the rear wheels, you couldn't turn.
Yeah.
They would hit as soon as you turn.
Okay, there. You steer in the front with the brakes in the back.
Right, you walk behind the wagon to brake it. You weren't riding on it anyway, so.
Oh, okay.
Any other questions? Okay, we're going to head back to the center, just go around to the right the way we came up here. If anybody thinks of questions on the way in, don't be afraid to ask. So let's start out there, just out to the right the way we came.
Good.
Cho mình đi em đi xin rồi.
Even our language is called Pennsylvania Dutch. And I say it's a perfect name for it because it's not Dutch throughout the
Chưa không hả? Xong rồi, trở lại cái center. Nó chứ còn mấy cái này. Không còn hết rồi. Cái đâu phải mắc gì tại thành viên tế. Đó phải đi ngựa chứ. Phải đi ngựa chứ.
Cho mình vô để thấy cái sự sinh hoạt.
Không đâu. Vậy. Vô rồi quậy. Ok. Chạy không lạc cái mở bản đồ nó chạy đi.
Lấy cái cá nó coi đẹp lắm, ngộ lắm.
Hai học trò này cúp học, trốn học. Hai học trò này trốn học. rủ nhau đi chơi.
Cúp cua.
Có gì lạ đâu.
Okay, well, good enough. So just drive around, you'll see it. Yeah. And if you're on a small county road, you see a small store, stop in. They'll be intrigued.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Xong rồi, giờ mình lên xe mình đi đi. Dạ, bây giờ đi đổ xăng. Giờ đi đổ xăng đi rồi có cái chỗ ăn này năm rồi đi sai. Ok rồi. Khách cứ hướng dẫn. Ok, khách đổ xăng luôn đi. Để xăng đổ xăng rồi về xe. Sau đó mình sẽ dòng cái khách đi dòng mình coi cái xe. Dừng lại chỗ cái nào bán đồ gì.
Bây giờ á, là mình phải đổ xăng rồi mới chạy đi đâu thì chạy.
Đổ xăng đi ăn đã 11 giờ rồi.
Xe lớn là
Mới
nằm chạy
đổ
ở
xăng.
đây.
hội không lắng nghe có vậy đó.
Ở đó tức thì mà đổ xăng trước.
Đổ xăng trước, mình đi đâu đi?
Dạ rồi.
Đổ xăng xong rồi đổ nước vô
Nhưng
mình.
mà nó đổ xăng ra thì có ai cần không?
Cần đổ xăng ra, đổ xăng ra.
Chúng ta lấy ra. Chúng ta lấy ra.
Đổ xăng trước.
Đổ xăng ra cũng có chỗ luôn, nhưng mà ở đây nó thơm sạch sẽ luôn. Ở đây nó làm rất là sạch sẽ. Dạ, cho nên là đổ đẩy đâu không có lỗ đâu.
Đổ xăng xong mà mới đi dắt chân xong mới uống nước vô.
Dạ.
Nhớ bó cái xong không? Cái trồng năm canh cắt đã trơn giếng xuống lại giếng lên. Anh hiểu cầu á không? Ông bất ngờ á, ông viết là nguyên một đêm không có ngủ, mà không có ngủ hút quá tiếng này nói đi. Thì nói đủ xong nhảy nhảy cái là đủ xong.
Rồi, bye bye.
Tại một chứ.
Bye bye, bye bye, bye bye.
Vậy thôi đó hả con?
Dạ. Đây, một xe thăm.
Mẹ cha, con mới nói với mẹ đó, cái nguyên tắc ở đây người ta không cho mình hái cái gì hết trơn. Mình hái mình mang tiếng, nói rồi. Bây giờ nè, có đi xã, không phải, người ta kêu mình đi tự. Đây, vô đây đi. Con nghĩ mình đi tới đâu mình đừng có hái cái gì, mình đừng có làm cái gì hết á, mang tiếng gì đó.
I just thought I'd show you where it is.
Còn pin không bé? Còn pin không chút luôn ở ban đầu đó.